Good afternoon, teacher.
Good afternoon, teacher.
Good afternoon, teacher.
Let's wait a few more minutes for the others to join. Okay, so I guess this is everyone. Uh, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to turn off my camera as well because I'm not also feeling well. Okay, so class managers who are not here.
Teacher, for the girls, Makatangay will be absent today. Baliwag and Hernandez are not yet here. I'm not sure if they will be absent.
Makatangay, Angel,
Yes, teacher.
and for those who are not yet here is Baliwag and
Hernandez unit, teacher.
okay. So for the boys,
Angelito will be absent, teacher. Angelito Desakila will be absent.
I think
And
Sakula is here.
Teacher Nan.
Not
While
okay.
Jalen Makatangay will be late.
Okay, okay.
That's all.
Okay, so if ever Baliwag is absent, that is her twice in a row already. Okay, so with that, let's start already. Okay, so for today, we'll just first good afternoon, everyone.
Good, af-
Good afternoon,
Good
teacher.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, teacher.
Okay, so for today, we'll just continue our last topic. Okay, so for our last topic, it is the forms, the text fields, and the labels. Oh, wait. Okay, so we're just going to pick up where we left off last time. So last time we were able to apply some formatting attributes to our to our input field, which is our text box. Okay, so if you don't remember, our text box or input field are these ones. And the formatting attribute that we applied is first, of course, we applied the text, which is the default formatting attribute for the text box. And then we had also applied the size and the max length. Okay, so if you still remember, what is the purpose of the size attribute? Yes, Clarete.
To put in the size of the box, the text
Okay,
box.
so it is to adjust the size of the box up to how wide the box will be. Okay, so that is the purpose of the size formatting attribute. And how about for the max length? Yes, Dungan.
So we could change the length of the text box.
Okay, so it is to set the length of how many characters we are going to input inside our text box. So one good example of this one is the phone number, of course, which in our country, our max digit for a phone number is 11 digits or 11 characters. So if we're going to accept phone number into our input, we're going to have to put a max length formatting attribute and set it to 11 so that it will automatically just be until 11 digits or characters. Okay, and so for the rest of the formatting attributes, so we'll continue on that. Next is the text input, where we are applying here the formatting attribute, name, and the value. Okay, so last time we already get to apply the type, the size, and the max length. Okay, so the remaining two, which is the name formatting attribute and value formatting attribute, is applied to this one. Okay, so for the name formatting attribute, it's basically its purpose is to just name that specific text box. So for example, it is this text box. Okay, so the purpose of this formatting attribute is just to provide a name for this text box. So if you want to name it as TF1, which stands for text field 1, okay, so that is going to be performed, whereas the TF1, once the TF1 uh, input field is called, it will refer to this box. Okay, so that is the purpose of providing a name to to an input field. And then we have our value. So for the value, its purpose is to provide the initial value inside our text box. So it is referring to this one. Okay, so once you run your text box, it will automatically have its default value inside. Okay, so with this actually also works if your input type is also a password, right? So last time already discussed that for the type, we can also set it as a password. And the characters on the text box will change into bullets. Okay. And we can also apply the value formatting attribute, whereas it is still reading this word, but it's just still covering it under the bullets. Okay, so if you have your word here in the value, so let's say secret, how many digits it has? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're looking at the bullets in the password field. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's still the same word, but covered by the bullets. So is that clear? So the formatting attribute applied here is the name and the value. Okay, so let's try this one first. Okay, so while I am trying this out, kindly tell me who can screen share as well. Kindly raise your hand. So we have Benedict as one. Okay, so Benedict is the only one able to share screen. Okay, so we got two. Also Jomsi. Okay, so you may lower. Thank you. Later I'll call you.
Teacher, can I go to
Yes.
the restroom?
Okay, go ahead. While I'm editing. Okay, so in here, I already made two types of the form. So first one, so that it is a text, so that you may see that there is a default value inside. Okay, so in here, the type is text, input type is text, and then I named it text field 1. And then for this text field, its default value, okay, so later once I run it, I won't have to type it inside because instantly it will be inside the text box already. So the value will be, or the default value will be sample value. So for the second one, the type is going to be password. Okay, and the name is text field 2. So since it is, since the type is password, the only thing that you will see is bullets. But the ones that it is covering is the words here, sample second value. Okay, so when I run this, there, automatically there is a default value inside the text box. Everyone, kindly take note of the codes that we are using, okay? Because for the next activity, you may know already how to apply this formatting attribute into your HTML document. And also, for next week, for asynchronous, I might not be able to, for the synchronous, I might not be able to meet everyone next week. I will be attending a wedding. Okay, so this one, okay. So as you can see in the value, the word here is sample second value. Okay, you may not see it in here, but that is the one that it is pertaining to. So if you want to count the digits in here, that is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that is 16 characters, meaning this is the really the one that it is covering in the bullets. Okay, so any questions here? None? Okay, so let's proceed. Next is the field set tag along with the legend tag. So the field set tag, as what we can recall, it is the one grouping up the forms. Okay, so the forms are the ones inside, and then the field set is the one providing us with the box, thus grouping the forms inside with its respective legend. Okay, so for the legend, what is its purpose here? Yes, Clarete.
It's the title for the contents.
Okay, so it is providing the title or the caption for the contents inside the field set. Okay, so as you can see here, the contents of the field set is first name, and then the second is the last name. Okay, so all of them are providing information about personal details. Okay, so that is why the title or the caption for the field set is personal details. And how are we applying the field set in the legend? So it's pretty much similar to how you apply the form. So again, following the philo method. So form is outside, and then next is the field set. Okay, so form and then field set. And then right at the middle, right after the field set is the legend tag already. And then your forms. Okay, so that is how we are applying the field set and legend to our form. Okay, so let's try it out. Okay, so let's use this already as an example. So we have the form. Now we'll just have to apply the field set. Okay. Then how about, okay, so let's change this one into okay, so in here I already applied the field set, but without a legend. Okay, so again, for the legend, it is the caption for the contents. It is the caption for the contents inside our, which is inside our field set. And with our forms having having contained student name and student number. So what would be the appropriate caption for our field set? Right, earlier. So earlier the example is for the forms, it is asking for the first name and last name. Thus, it is pertaining to personal details or personal info. But for this one, it is asking for the student name and student number. So what would be our appropriate caption? Yes, Manalo.
Student's ID.
Okay, so one good example is the student's ID. Okay, so we can set this as student's ID. Okay, whereas in the student's ID, the contents that can be contained is the student name and the student's number. Okay, so that is how we are applying our field set and legend. Okay, so any questions on this part? None? Okay, so if there are no questions, okay, so we're already done with lesson 1. So again, let's recap on the things that we discussed on lesson 1. So lesson 1, we discussed about the yes, give one, Tala.
The forms.
The forms. Okay, so how are we going to produce our forms?
Teachers tell me.
No, other people, other hands. Okay, so what can you remember? Just that. What can you recall? Okay, so this lesson 1, we discussed about the forms or how to create our forms, which is composed of first the label and then its text field or its text box where you are typing your answer. And for the input field, we have 5 different formatting attributes, which are the type. And so far, we can apply 2 values in the type, which is text and password. What else? We have a name. We also have a value. So for the value, we can set an initial value inside our text box, similar to this one. Then we have the size, which adjusts the width of our text box, and we have our max length. And don't forget about our field set and the legend. Okay, so that pretty much sums up our lesson 1. So any questions, everyone? Okay, so with that, I think yes, we are heading already towards lesson 2. Okay, so everyone, make sure you are taking notes, okay, for your future activities. Okay, so for this next one, who raised their hands, who can screen share? It is Benedict, Jomsi, there. Okay, so for this next one, we are going to tackle about text areas, radio buttons, and check boxes. Okay, so if last time it is the forms, which only has the labels and the text boxes. No, so for this next one, we have the text areas, radio buttons, and check boxes. So for this lesson 2, we are going to identify the form controls, different form controls, enumerate the attributes used in HTML form, understand the syntax of the text area, radio button, and checkbox, and construct an HTML document with the form controls. Okay, so first, I have here the example for our text area, checkboxes, and radio buttons. Okay, so for the example of the text area here, what can you tell its difference between the text box? Okay, for our text area. So what is the difference between the text area and the text box? Yes, Jomsi.
Teacher, you can scroll up and down in the text areas.
Okay, so what else? Yes, Aguilon.
The text area is bigger than the text box.
Okay, so the text area is quite larger than a text box. So all of those are correct. So with the text area, you can actually provide multiple lines of words inside the text area, thus filling it vertically, not horizontally. So vertically, so it would be in the direction like this. Okay, so vertically, it will be filled that way. That's why there is going to be a scroll bar. Okay, for us to scroll up and down all of the contents inside our text area. Unlike in the text box, so the text box is only a one line text input field. Whereas if you type, so if you type a lot here, so it will just adjust towards the right side of the text box. Unlike here, you can still see almost everything that you type because it is, of course, a multi-lined text input area. Okay, next we have the checkboxes and radio buttons. So what is the difference between the two? Yes, Awali.
For checkboxes, you can choose more than one option. For radio buttons, you can only choose one option.
Okay, so for the checkboxes, you can actually select more than one of the option that is provided. So just the same as the example here. So whereas in radio buttons, you can only select one. Okay, so that's pretty much it in the difference between the two. Okay, so let's proceed. So first we have is radio buttons. So radio buttons, these are used when user selects only one option from a list. This type attribute needs to be set to the volume radio, or to the value radio. Okay, so radio buttons, we are going to use this if there is going to be options that require only one answer. Okay, so you can only select one of the options. So what good example is there for the radio buttons? Okay, give one. Yes, JP.
When you're taking a quiz,
Okay, so when you're taking a quiz, of course, in a multiple choice type of exam, so of course there will be multiple options there. So you can only select one. What else?
Education level.
Hmm? So for the education level, that highly depends on what is it asking. So it can be what is your current education level. So if that is the question, if it's asking for your current education level, you can only answer one. But if it is asking what are the education levels you attained, so it can be more than one. Okay, what else? Yes, Gabriel.
Sure, if they're asking for your gender.
Okay, so another example is for your gender. So you can only choose one of the genders. Yes, Dungan.
If they're asking for your section.
Okay, also for your section. Yes, Palmes.
Online survey.
Okay, so or online survey, it is being applied there. Okay, so all of those examples we can apply the radio buttons with. Okay, so how are we applying our radio buttons? So we have an example here. So we have a sample form right on top, which the question is, what type of movie do you mostly prefer to watch? Okay, so with that question, mostly prefer, so you can just select one. Okay, so one among these choices. Okay, so what does it look in the code? So first, we are still applying the form form tag. Okay, so we are still using the form tag, and then inside we have the p tag. So for the p tag, it is just providing us with the text, and that is asking a question. Okay, and then for the options, we are using again the input tag. Okay, so for the input tag, it's not only just for the text boxes. It can also be transformed into a radio button. Okay, because as you can remember, our value for the type for the first one is still text and password. So those are our first values for the type in the input. But in here, we already added another one, which is radio. So if we put radio as a type inside our input tag, it will transform our input type into a radio button. Okay, and the name of its option at the side. Okay, let's try it first in our editor. Okay, so how about let's just say what is your section? Okay, and then we're going to provide our options. Input, Okay, so first option. So, but first, we're going to put in type radio. So don't forget to make it type radio at first. And then it's options. So it can either be brilliance or radiance. So I forgot, I only have two sections. Okay, so radiance or brilliance. Okay, so once I click run, there. So I already have two sections for the question, what is your section? So both of these are converted into a radio button, and I can select this one. Okay, so any questions here? None. And okay, before I call someone, let me just squeeze in this extra one. Okay, so similar earlier for the value formatting attribute, right? So if you can still remember, so on the browser, radio buttons look like small circles. The check attribute can be used to set the default selection if user wants to indicate a pre-chosen selection. So it is similar to the value formatting attribute where there is already a value inside the text box. But in this case, there is already a pre-selected option in your form. Okay, so if I apply this here, okay, so let me just run it again. So once I click run, the selection is reset. There's no selection in default. Okay, but if I select brilliance, and applied the check formatting attribute. Okay, so what we're using is check formatting attribute. If I apply it here, the brilliance in here in the output will be automatically selected right after I run it. Okay, so when I press run, there. So brilliance is already selected without me tampering with the option or with the radio button. Okay, so that is the function of the check formatting attribute in input. Okay, so any questions? Okay, so let me call someone here. I would like to call Jomshi. Okay, so for him to apply the radio buttons. Okay, so first, just provide us with the question first on what the options are going to be about. So what's your favorite subject? So provide us with the options. Okay, so for his options, it is up to 3. Okay, so for his options, okay, so he has 3: mathematics, ICT, and English. Okay, so as you can see there, there's actually going to be an additional formatting attribute if you're going to select just only one. Okay, so as you can see there, once he selected, he can still select other more. Okay, so there is going to be an additional coding for that. Okay, but for now, we'll not go through that for now. Okay, so but for today, okay, so his radio button is working. So click run again and then apply the check formatting attribute in any of your options.
Teacher, where this input?
Just anywhere. No, that is a separate formatting attribute. So it should be right after the quotation mark. There. No, just the word check. No.
What?
Don't put the check is a formatting attribute. So similar to the formatting attribute reversed, right? So it doesn't have a value. Just remove first the there, and then apply ed. Ed. Check. Put ed on the check. So it's past tense. Check.
Okay.
There.
I thought that.
Okay, and then run. There. So mathematics is now applied with the check formatting attribute, meaning it is pre-selected in your radio buttons. Okay, without you pressing the option. Okay. So, okay, very good. Okay, so let's proceed to the other one. You may stop share. Thank you. Okay, next one we have is check boxes. So what are check boxes? Check boxes, these are similar to radio buttons, but are used when user wants to select more than one option among the number of choices. This type attribute needs to be set to value checkbox. Okay, so this one is pretty much similar to the radio buttons on how we are applying it and its formatting attribute. Okay, so for its formatting attribute, it should be set into checkbox. So if earlier for radio button, we set it to radio, for the checkboxes, we will set it into checkbox. And then its purpose is to have a selection more than one. Okay, more than one selection among the options. Okay, so this is our example code. So where do you watch movies? Select all that apply. Okay, so regarding on the questions, is to how many up to how many of the option will apply the answer. Okay, so if you are watching a movie in the cinema, if you're watching the movie in your computer or at home, okay, so you can change, you can choose all of those with no problem. Okay, so and what does it look like in the code? So it's pretty much similar to the radio button. So again, we have the form, and then we have the p tag, and then we're going to have the inputs, where in the input, the type is checkbox. So if earlier we have for the type, input type, we have text, we have password, we have radio, and then we have checkbox. Okay, so far we have 4 values that we can set into our type in the input tag. Okay, so if you're going to use checkbox, we are going to use the value checkbox. And so for it to be pre-selected, we are also adding the check attribute to one of the buttons and to mark it with a check when the page loads. Okay, so apply it again. So let's say we're creating a questionnaire for rich people. So for example, what type of cars do you own? But not cars, but for example, vehicles. Okay, and we'll set this into checkbox. Okay, so what type of vehicles do you own? So let's say, for example, a motorbike, car, a boat, a jet, and helicopter. Okay, there. Okay, so we have 5 options for our checkbox. Okay, and then we run this. There. So what type of vehicles do you own? So why care? Car. There. So motorbike, car, boat, jet, and helicopter. Okay, there. So you can check multiple options. Okay, so if you own all of this, so you can check all. Okay, so that is for our check box. And of course, if you want a pre-selected option, so you can just apply the check formatting attribute, this one. Okay, so let's say you want a car to be a pre-selected attribute, a pre-selected option. So let's just apply this attribute there. There. So once I click run, I didn't even selected the car. So I press run again there. So it is a pre-selected option already into the question of the checkboxes. So any questions here? None? Okay, how about I ask Benedict to apply a checkbox? Okay, there. So he already has a lot of options. So you may just change that into ready to checkbox. Checkbox, copy that. Paste it there, there. Just double click the word. There. Okay, there. Then press run. There. So all of the options are changed into checkboxes. And then, okay, so uncheck Sage. There, and then click run. There. So in here, his pre-selected option is his first option, Sage. Okay, so without him manually selecting Sage in the checkboxes, so once you press run, it will be automatically selected. Okay, so if that's clear, everyone, any questions? None? None so far? Okay, so you may stop share. Very good, thank you. Okay, sorry. Okay, so last one is we have text areas. So text areas, these are text fields that have more than one line for longer text inputs. These are usually used to record comments or feedbacks. This uses the text area formatting attribute. Not formatting attribute, tags. Okay, so text area tags. Okay, you can specify the dimensions of the text box with rows and calls attributes. So we are going to use these attributes to specify the size of our text area. Okay, so pretty much text areas, it is a combination of a text box and a table. So with the text box, you can type in texts on how long you want, and you can set its size according to rows and columns that you will provide it with. So what is the example here? So in here we have your text area in here, and the size is predetermined in here. Okay, so to apply the text area, it's pretty much the same when you are applying your label, right? So whatever it is, the text inside will appear on the inside of your text area. Okay, and the size is predetermined by the rows and the columns based on what value you are adding inside. Okay, so text area. For this case, the name formatting attribute, it is not that important. It's not serving not that much of a purpose for us as of now. Okay, so but don't forget the name, we can apply that in our text area. Okay, so let's apply first the rows, the text area. So let's apply it right below. So let's have another form. Then text area. And then it's rows equals to, let's say 5. And then columns, which is calls, it's going to be, let's say 30. Okay, when I press run, Oh, this there. There. So the text area is this size. So 5 columns, 5 rows and 30 columns. Okay, so that is our text area. And if you want a sample text to appear inside your text area in here, so you may just type it in between the text area. So sample text and run there. So it will appear there. So simple as that is this. So make sure you're taking notes of these codes. So for your future activities. Okay, so any questions? Yes, Jomsi?
Right, teacher, you put text inside the box. Can you remove that while you are typing, or you can delete it?
Yes. So if I added a sample text like just like this,
Yes, teacher. Inside the box, the final output.
okay, so if I add a sample text like this, so I can still remove it here and then change my text. Is that clear?
So teacher, you need to backspace first.
Yes. So I will still need to backspace. So you're asking if automatically if I click, the sample text will disappear. Okay, so for future meetings, okay, so that is where we'll discuss that. Okay, so that's all for today, everyone. So no more questions. Okay, so that's all for today. Okay, everyone, see you.
See you and thank you, teacher.
See you and
Thank you,
thank you,
teacher.
teacher.
So reminder, probably next week I won't be able to meet you. So, but expect that you will do something in exchange. Okay. So goodbye.